get comfortable here, guys. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Frater Oz again. Please excuse the setting and what's promises to be crappy quality. As those of you who follow me on Facebook and stuff already know, I am driving trucks again, so I'm over the road in an 18-wheeler. And so this is what it is. And I also do not yet have a laptop, so I'm not able to do all the fancy editing and stuff that I normally do. So this is going to be episode 3 of Oz Speaks As He Will. Thanks for watching, and for all of you who have made comments and enjoyed the series. Like, comment, and subscribe, and all that jazz. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to address the question of whether or not Thelema is satanic. It's a question that the majority of us ask at some point or another, and usually early on. And I find that, in my opinion, the answer is often either given incorrectly or at least not clearly. I feel like it may not be intentional, but that people are misled when they ask this question more often than not. And it's not out of any malice on anyone's part. I think that a lot of people truly believe that when they say, no, it's not satanic, and Crowley was just trying to shock people and stuff like that. I think that they truly believe that, but I believe it to be incorrect and inaccurate. So, in short, the answer to me is yes, Thelema is absolutely satanic, and we're going to talk about why, and here we go. So let's talk about. Okay, first I want to recommend a video to everyone watching. There's a video on YouTube called "The Principle of Satan in Thelema." Just stick that into the search bar and you will find it. It's a very long video, and it's full of really technical, symbolic type of things. It's a really good video, and I recommend that you all watch it. It kind of shows just how deep the rabbit hole of Satanism goes in Thelema, and it goes very deep. The very foundation upon which all of this is built is satanic in nature, and there's just no way around it. So just look at the symbolism. I mean, why would you even have to ask the question, is Thelema satanic? I mean, you ask the question because the symbolism is everywhere, and even though there is a lot of it that's not readily apparent, there's a ton of it that is. I mean, Crowley is the beast 666, To Megatherion, which means the great wild beast. There's the mark of the beast, all of the uses of 666, and the imagery of Baphomet, and there's just all of this symbolism that makes it completely obvious on the exterior that Thelema is indeed satanic. And people will try to explain this away. But the symbolism goes much deeper than just some words and stuff. Just some things like we created this symbol and we call it the mark of the beast, or I called myself the beast 666, or what. It goes a lot deeper than that. It hits to the very heart of the system. So why would people whitewash this? Why would people mislead new people about whether or not Thelema is satanic? Well, firstly, I think that a lot of the people that do it actually believe what they're saying. I mean, I don't think that people are intentionally misleading people. But, at the heart of it, it's like the vast majority of us grew up in Christian households, and even if we didn't, we have constantly throughout our lives been subjected to society's ideas about the satanic and ideas about Satan. And so just the very term invokes all of these visceral emotions about Satanism being something that's evil and bad, and Satan in general just being evil and bad and dark. And so we have these knee-jerk reactions to those kind of terms, and so that may be, I'm sure it is at least partially the reason why people reach to believe that Thelema is not satanic, because they see that Thelema is good, and they just don't see a way that that can be satanic. And so they make all of these, they jump through all of these mental hoops and do all of these things internally that allow them to just basically ignore huge swaths of the material, because that's what you have to do. You have to ignore or somehow explain away huge swaths of the material and huge blocks of symbolism within Thelema in order to somehow come to the conclusion that it's not satanic. But yet they do it. And like I say, I think the reason is primarily because of this idea that society has about the satanic. So let's take a moment to just do this exercise that I like to do whenever I talk with someone about this subject. And it happens pretty frequently, both in person and online. It's because it's at the point now where I'm kind of the guy for Satan and Thelema, or whatever they, I've had them tag me in Facebook posts when somebody's saying, no, it's not satanic. Just like, I wonder when Frater is going to show up. So, these are my opinions, but they're hard won. They're based in objective reality, in quotes and, rituals and stuff like that it's just undeniable. So the game that I like to play, I like to call it Who's the Bad Guy? So many of us are, most of us are at least vaguely familiar with the Bible, but a lot of us have not really gone in and read this stuff for ourselves. And even Christians, a lot of them just believe what the preacher said, or they've just read some stuff in the New Testament, and they aren't really super familiar with the Bible. And when you look at some of these stories and you take off the glasses that make you look at it with these eyes of Satan being bad and Jehovah being good, things become apparent. So ask yourself, go back and read some of it and think about the stories and ask yourself, who really is the bad guy in this story? I mean, in particular, the Old Testament. So who is it that sent the angel of death to kill all the firstborn children? I mean, unless you were one of the ones who sacrificed a goat and painted the goat's blood over the door and stuff, those people got passed by. But everybody else's firstborn child was killed by the angel of death. And who sent that? God did. God sent the angel of death to kill the firstborn children of all these people because they didn't do what they were told. Okay? Who killed, 70,000 Israelites because King David did a census, because he told him not to count the people, and he counted the people, so he killed 70,000 people. God did that. He did it because somebody didn't do what they were told. Who turned the people at Sodom and Gomorrah into pillars of salt? Who flooded the entire earth and killed all of the humans for not doing what they were told? God did. God did all of these things. And these are evil things. They're bad things, even to Christians who are watching this. Those of us who are thinking individuals who know right from wrong, when you look at these acts, they are evil in nature. They are not good. They are evil. There is no way that you can look at the killing of the entire species except for Noah's Ark and whatever as something good. He just kills and kills and punishes and punishes. Would a God who is all love and good do these things? I don't think so. I really don't. And I don't know how people can come to that conclusion. Further, who tells us to stone the son who won't obey his parents, and stone them to death? Take them into the center of the village, and the village elders will stone them to death. Who tells us to stone women for adultery, and all of these other horrible things that he tells us society should be doing? I mean, do we not hate the fact that Saudi Arabia and these other countries stone people and behead people and all of this stuff? They're doing that because of Abrahamic religion, because that tells them to do that. And, the same is true of the Christian Bible. All these Abrahamic faiths have these types of things. And this is not good. This is evil. To anyone who looks at it objectively, you can't tell me that you think those are things that are good. So, who's the bad guy? I mean, ask yourself, what did Satan really do? What did Satan do that was so bad? I mean, everything he did was like, yes, he tempted mankind, and he's the tempter and stuff, but he tempts them. Why? He tempts them because that's his job. He tempts them so that God can decide whether to punish them or not. In the Garden of Eden, the serpent. Okay, let's look at this when you think about who's the bad guy. Okay, we are what we are right now, sentient beings who know right from wrong and stuff. Why? Because of Satan. Were it up to God, we would not know the difference between right and wrong, and we would not have all of these thoughts of our own and stuff. That was given to us in the Garden of Eden by the serpent, Satan. That is what the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that Adam and Eve ate from. The serpent told them to eat from the fruit that was forbidden, and the fruit that was forbidden by God was the fruit that was on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And when they ate the fruit, suddenly they knew the difference between right and wrong. They knew the knowledge, they had the knowledge of good and evil. So were it not for that fact, and were it not for that serpent Satan, we would not have the knowledge of good and evil. We wouldn't know right from wrong. We would be more like just another animal in the animal kingdom. We would be like the lion who kills the gazelle and feels no remorse for it. He kills the gazelle to eat, and that's just what it is. He doesn't feel remorse for that. He doesn't realize that killing another being is evil, and in truth, he's doing it for food. But you get my point. The point is that were it not for Satan, we would be living more like that. We would not be knowing right from wrong and making all of these complex choices and stuff. We do this because we ate from the fruit, okay? And Satan is the one who did that. And this is why Crowley calls him the initiator, the Lord of initiation, or it says that he bade know thyself and taught initiation, because that's what he did. He initiated us into the knowledge of right and wrong. And so, is that bad? Who's the bad guy? So who's the bad guy? The guy who wants us to just do what we're told and be subservient slaves, or else he will punish, or the guy who wants to cast off those chains of slavery and free us and let us make our own choices and let us know for ourselves what is right and wrong. Okay, who's good and who's bad? Who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Okay, it's my opinion that this has been really twisted up, by the preachers and by the people who say, well, all that stuff's the Old Testament, but then Jesus came, and in the New Testament it's all love and love and love and everything. Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, Jesus said straight up, the Old Testament, those are still the rules, guys. Those are still the rules. Yes, you can come to me and I'll forgive you and stuff, but those are still the fucking rules, okay? He says that in the New Testament. So you have some of these Christians who want to say that the New Testament kind of cancels out the Old Testament, and it doesn't, okay? Those are still the rules. God still wants you to be a subservient slave and do what you're told, or else get punished, okay? That's the rules of the game. And so hopefully by thinking about it in this way, you can come to the understanding of who's the bad guy. I mean, the Gnostics have this idea of an evil creator god. The term they use is the demiurge. And basically, that is the way many of us view Jehovah, or Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, the Abrahamic God, as this evil creator god. Okay, because his acts are evil. And when you look at it that way, and you look at Satan as this liberating force, it not only makes you realize that he's not the bad guy, it also shows you how it ties together with Thelema, because that's what Thelema is all about. slaves of the slave gods, and casting off the chains of slavery, and liberating oneself, and know thyself, and initiation, and all of this stuff that is traditionally attributed to Satan. So you have this connection between the traditional Christian idea of Satan that is embedded into Thelema as its core principles. And I don't know how you really get around that, okay? So let's talk a little bit about some quotes from Crowley, because, people like to say that he just was trying to be shocking and stuff like that. So let's talk about what Crowley said. So in Confessions, there are a couple of different quotes that are there. There's actually quite a few, but a couple that I'm going to single out are one of them. And just to be clear, I don't have access to a bunch of technology and books and stuff, so these are just off the cuff. Quotes are not completely accurate. Deal with it. So in Confession, he said something like, I was not content to identify a personal devil and serve him. I wanted to become his chief of staff. So right there he's saying, I wanted to become Satan's chief of staff. I wanted to be his right-hand man. And this is when he was younger, when he was like in boyhood. I think at the beginning of that quote it says, almost in boyhood I pledged myself to the task, or something like that. And then another quote, he said, demonstrating that he did believe in the Christian theology, he said, I could hardly conceive of anybody who wouldn't believe in the theology of the Plymouth Brethren. I just chose Satan's side, and to this day I could not tell you why. And so he's basically, he was raised in this Plymouth Brethren sect, which was like a militant Christian sect who believed that the King James Bible was the literal word of God. And he said that he believed it, that he believed it, and he could hardly understand anyone who didn't believe it. But that he switched over to the side of Satan. Perhaps he saw who was the bad guy in that story and who wasn't. Okay? Now, probably the most important quote to me, there are many quotes linking Satanism to Thelema, but probably one of the most important to me comes from Magic Without Tears. Magic in Theory and Practice. It's actually a footnote, and in this quote, Crowley is very clear, which doesn't happen very often, okay? And people will still, even after you throwing this quote out, will still argue with you about this, but and so again, it's not completely accurate, but he talks about how he says the devil is the god of any man who one personally dislikes, or something like that. Basically saying that, people see the devil in a lot of things, okay? And then he says, because of this confusion of thought, the Beast 666 has chosen to let names stand as they are and to proclaim simply that I was the solar hermetic Lucifer, is Hadith, and the devil, Satan, of our particular universe. And then he goes on to say his emblem is Baphomet, and he talks about Capricornus, the leaping goat, the devil card of the tarot, and he lists off all of these symbols. So right here he is saying Iwas is Lucifer, is Hadith, is the devil, is Satan. In the very first part he says Iwas, the solar, he says to proclaim simply, so he's using simple language to lay it out here, that Iwas, the solar phallic hermetic Lucifer, so he's saying Iwas is Lucifer, is Hadith, and the devil or Satan of our particular universe. He's saying that Iwas is Satan. Iwas is his holy guardian angel. He also says that in there. Is my own holy guardian angel and the devil, Satan, of our particular universe, or something like that. So he's saying that Iwas is Satan, okay? And Iwas is his holy guardian angel. Therefore, Satan is Crowley's holy guardian angel. Also, where does the Book of the Law come from? The Book of the Law was dictated to Crowley by Iwas. Iwas told Crowley the words, and Crowley wrote them down. And who is Aiwass? Aiwass is Satan. Therefore, the book of the law was dictated to Crowley by Satan. Okay? And he says this in no uncertain terms. There's no way that this could be said, well, he didn't really mean it that way. No, he said it very simply right there. Okay? He said it very simply. And so people have all of these arguments that they like to mount, and they try to ignore a lot of the things that are there. Other things, you can find all throughout. I mean, look at the hymn to Satan. Look at the stuff in the Abramelin ritual where he's like, Satan, my father, I adore thee, Adonai, and all of this. He is over and over glorifying Satan in many forms, through Baphomet, through Lucifer, through the goat, through, using the things like the mark of the beast, calling himself the beast 666. These are all things that are tangible, and, he didn't do just to shock people. He did these things because he believed himself to be the beast 666 of Revelations. And, I took an initiation in the OTO that I was not bound by an oath of secrecy, okay? There is an initiation in the OTO that does not include an oath of secrecy. And many people after the ritual pointed this out, specifically, that it did not include an oath of secrecy. And I will say, without revealing too much, that large portions of that were read directly from the King James Bible in the book of Revelations. That, to me, is just one of many things that tell me that this is related. This is related not just to some abstract idea of Satan. It is related directly to the Satan of the Bible and the Christians. Okay. Again, go watch The Principle of Satan and Thelema. Go watch that video. Look at all the symbolism and how deep it actually runs. Look at Crowley's own words, his own accounts of his thoughts as a youth and stuff like that, and you will see that he believed himself to be the beast of Revelations. Okay, so with all that said, I think we've made a good case for Satan not being the bad guy, and we've made a pretty good case for Crowley's ideas of Satan. And if you watch that Principle of Satan and Thelema video, you will see just how deep that symbolism runs. Again, I know I keep saying that, but I honestly believe that to be one of the most important lectures of our time about Thelema, just because how misunderstood this subject is. So with that said, let's look at a specific Libra, okay? And we'll look at Satan as the Lord of Initiation. So Crowley, in that same long quote that I've been going on and on about, he says that Satan is not the enemy of man, but he who bade know thyself, but he who made gods of our race, he bade know thyself and taught initiation. That's what he says of Satan, this serpent. He says this serpent, Satan, is not the enemy of man, but he knowing the difference between good and evil. He bade know thyself and taught initiation. So this places Satan, this quote not only places Satan as the origin of the book of the law and therefore of Thelema, but it also gives him this place as the initiator, as almost the original initiator, and therefore we could suppose that he would be what Crowley would call the Lord of Initiation. And in Liber Sati, I believe that it ends in the name of the Lord of Initiation, Amen. And we see all this symbolism, which if we look at with our Satan glasses on, as we can do with a lot of the Libers in Thelema, we will see this Satanism reveal itself. In Liber Sati it says, I have hidden myself beneath a mask. I am a black and terrible God. With courage, conquering fear, shall you approach my altar. You shall lay down your head on mine altar, expecting the sweep of the sword. But the first kiss of love shall be radiant on your lips, and all my darkness and terror shall turn to light and joy before you. This, this entire Liber, when you read it in the right context, is talking about Satan in Thelema, in my opinion. It also says, I am the God who giveth all, light, life, love, force, fantasy, fire. These do I give you. Mine hands are full of these. Light, Lucifer, fire, Satan, all these things that relate to Satan. He says, mine hands are full of these. These do I offer. And, this love and light and life and all of these things that, if you think back to who's the bad guy, you think, well, he loved mankind and wanted us to be able to have that knowledge of good and evil and be initiated into this knowledge to become the types of people that we are now, rather than just being a monkey swinging from trees in the woods, eating bananas and not knowing the difference between right and wrong. So anyway, that's just another example. So let's talk about some of the arguments, because there are a lot of the same arguments that are always trotted out when I try to make a point about this subject. Mostly on Facebook and stuff. People make these arguments over and over again, so I want to address just a few of them. One of them is that, well, in order for us to be Satanists, we would have to be Christians and believe in the Abrahamic lore, mythology, or whatever. We would have to be Christians in order to be Satanists. Okay? So I want to just analyze that and think about it. Most Thelemites are ceremonial magicians, okay? And so they practice these forms of magic and these forms of ritual. And when we look at those and we look at their origins, so let's take, for example, the LBRP and all these rituals that use Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh. And they, Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, YHVH is Jehovah, the Christian God. And this plays heavily into a lot of the ritual that ceremonial magicians do. And then also we look at Enochian magic. Where did Enochian magic come from? It's calling up angels and all of this stuff. John Dee was a Christian. John Dee was calling on angels. That was not just some abstract idea of angels. He was calling on the Christian angels. Yet a lot of ceremonial magicians practice Enochian magic. They are calling upon these same angelic forces that are the angels. In the LBRP, we're calling on Christian angels, Michael, Gabriel, etc. Then we look at the Goetia, Goetic theurgy. Okay, where did that come from? King Solomon, Christian, or Muslim, Christian? But either way, it's Abrahamic. He trapped all these demons and did it with sigils and the little boxes and all that stuff. That's Christian stuff. Yet ceremonial magicians are using these types of magic, these particular forms of magic, and still want to say we would have to be Christians to believe in the devil. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, because, in essence, if you're believing that these are names of power and that these are real entities and forces that you're calling upon with Enochian and Goetic magic, these are linked back to the Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh and the Christian mythos, the Jewish mythos of the Old Testament. So, in essence, this stuff is all based in that same type of magic. Crowley was just saying that he never denied any of that stuff. He said that we have just moved past it and this is the new eon. And so that a lot of those old formulas, the rituals of the old times, are black in the Book of the Law. That these formulas are abrogated and these formulas are the old way, and that the new way is the Aeon of Horus, which was given to us by who again? Who was it again that gave us the Aeon of Horus? Aiwass. Aiwass gave us the Aeon of Horus when he dictated the book of the Law to Crowley. And who did Crowley say Aiwass was? Satan. So how do you separate how is it possible to separate the two and to use that argument? Because, I don't see a separation. I mean, I see that we're just in a new age that's moved past the need for us to be slaves. So another argument that I hear a lot is that, well, we have a different understanding of the idea of Satan and Lucifer than other people do and than Christians do, so therefore this isn't Satanism. Well, let's think about that. What does that have to do with anything? I mean, sure, that yes, the Christians believe that Satan is evil and dark, and they have all these irrational beliefs about what Satan is, and we do not. We understand that Satan was the good guy rather than the bad guy. So why does that make us not Satanists? That we're still doing the same thing. If you ask any Christian and then to come and look and see what we're doing, they would call it Satanism. So I don't understand why that. It's the terminology is all it is that you don't want to call it Satanism. You don't want to call it that word. You want to use a different word because of all the baggage that's associated by society and by yourself in your own mind with that word. When in reality, it's exactly what we're doing. We're taking the principles of Satan in the Garden of Eden, initiating us into the knowledge of good and evil and all of this, and freeing us from the slavery of the God who says, do what you're told or punish, punish, punish. And that's incorporated into this new fantastic thing called Thelema. And so we have taken the essence of what Satan is in the Bible and turned it into a religion. And so there is no separation there. There's a different understanding because we're right and they're wrong. But that doesn't make it any less satanic. Okay, and then another argument they like to make is, well, the Church of Satan and all the Luciferians believe this and this, and there's so because we're so different from them, we can't be Satanism. And that makes no sense either. So the Church of Satan and all of that stuff didn't exist in Crowley's time. They didn't exist till the 60s, 70s, whatever, and even more modern. And so to compare Thelema to them in some attempt to say that we're not Satanism doesn't make any sense. What needs to be done is they need to be compared to Thelema to decide whether or not they are Satanism, because Thelema is the original. Thelema is the original. Where were these Satanists that were around before Crowley? Where was this Satanism that existed before Crowley? I'm not saying that there wasn't any, but we're certainly not being compared to those. We're being compared to these more modern constructs that are, largely atheist in nature and stuff. And when Thelema is like the original, if anything, they should be comparing them to us. And so, yes, Crowley didn't use the term Satanism. Crowley didn't say, we are Satanists. And he didn't say, Thelema is Satanism. But nevertheless, that's what it is. And anyone who denies that is only fooling themselves, and they will either live fooling themselves through the rest of their life, or at some point they will come to this realization that this is what this thing is, and I don't know, can they handle it or not? I'm honestly not sure what the objective is. The people who whitewash it, maybe they're scared that they're going to chase people away, or people are not going to join our little cult or whatever, but it's like, if those people have not yet been able to shed the baggage of their past, and they're not able to put that baggage aside and look at this thing for what it is and not be deterred by, this symbolism that evokes all of this, conditioning from their past, then bye-bye. You know what I mean? This is for people who are past that. This is for people who aren't scared by things like that. We need to cast off those chains of slavery. We need to, be Thelemites and not be scared to be who we are and believe in all of this punishment, fire and brimstone, and all of this bullshit. So, hopefully I've made a good argument, and I'm not going to go any further. I don't know. I think this was pretty long. Again, I'm sorry for the crappy quality. Hopefully it'll improve as time goes on out in this truck. And again, thanks for watching. Love is the law. Love under will.